Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode, TCSN Live. I have Rainier Shea on the show today. We're doing this on the fly. We had some technical difficulties the other day, but he's ready to rock and roll. So I'm going to get him on here.
Hello.
Hey, how we doing?
Oh, I'm glad I could connect to this.
Sweet. I'm glad to have you on. So, first off, I've been reading your stuff for a while now, and I really enjoy reading it, just to let you know. We've been sharing it around and stuff. And I'm excited to have you on because one thing is, how old are you?
I'm 18.
18. That's amazing to me because you wouldn't think that when you read the articles. I'll tell you that. I'm learning a lot from you. I'm 40 plus. So where did you, are you in college now or
Yeah, I'm
did
in
you
college.
graduate high school? You are? Cool.
Yeah.
What school do you go to?
College of the Redwoods in Northern California.
All right. Hold on one second to see if I get a microphone. We're having a feedback problem here. So Rainier, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Oh, let's see. Well, first of all, I could explain how I got into this hobby, because it's really been a hobby of mine for the last 2 years. I haven't made any money off of it so far.
Okay.
I got into it during the 2016 election, when Bernie Sanders inspired me to get involved in politics,
Nice.
and uh, that was kind of a defining point in like July of 2016, when Bernie Sanders was cheated, and when I saw the injustices that are going on, and when I saw how corrupt our political system has gotten, and how it needs to change, and at a certain point, I felt inspired to get involved myself, and
Excellent.
and I saw that given how all these economic and social factors are converging right now, and how these next few years after 2016 we're going to be ripe for for some political upheavals, and for and and at a good time for people like me to step in and try to get involved, and try to end the injustices, and the corruption, and the and so I started getting involved by starting a blog. I
Okay.
started my blog, con2020.blogspot.com.
Right. Okay.
and and I've been writing articles every few days since.
Oh yeah. And now you work off of the Medium platform as well, correct?
Yes.
And then
Yes.
do you have a couple other? You have your you have your blog site, and then you have Medium. Those are the two
and
main ones that I noticed usually.
and then Newslog, and also the Guion Journal has been featuring my stuff lately.
Nice. Okay. See, you're moving up quickly, and I feel that you're going to. I know that you posted our TCSN newsreel a lot, and we've got you on that page, and I've been sharing your stuff through that. We have a little way of what we're doing stuff, because I'll say that what I've experienced is that I don't think you have radical ideas at all, but I think that a lot of people will try to paint your ideas as radical, and that's because of one reason, mostly because they've been taught things like the word socialism is bad. I remember growing up in America, I'm 40, during the 80s and 90s, we'd play G.I. Joes in the backyard. We all knew that the bad guys were the communists. Like, that's what we were raised on. Now, that's propaganda, in my opinion. So what we're trying to do is get the word out there to everybody and without chasing everybody away at the same time. That's our mission with the newsreel. So we have the newsreel where if you go to the page, you're going to see more. I don't want to say extreme because I don't think it's extreme, but you're going to see more of what our ideas really are focused. You and then a lot of other people that we work with. But if you try to share that stuff around, Facebook alone doesn't like. I've noticed they don't like some of your stuff. Some of your posts don't get shared, and it's not because we're not sharing them. It's because the algorithm straight up see them, what's in it, and it either assumes that nobody's going to like it, or maybe Facebook is working for the bigger guys, and they're being told not to share stuff.
Like keywords. I mean, Facebook is a pretty weird place, and I'm not going to automatically assume that it's political censorship.
Right.
Since I've seen people get banned for stupid stuff, random stuff.
Oh yeah.
But there's definitely been an uptick of political censorship in the last 2 years. That's been an alarming trend in our society. And in these big companies, which have been coordinating with the intelligence agencies seemingly from the start, because I've seen Caitlin Johnstone. Her explanation for that is big companies and plutocrats have a natural incentive to coordinate with the government. So there's going to be naturally there's massive collusion between the media and between these social media companies, and between, I mean, it's a corporate state. It's a corporate coup that's taken place.
Yeah, so you're saying, explain that. Explain this corporate coup in this corporate state.
Well, one example is what is it? The Domestic Security Alliance Council that was formed in 2005, and between something like 200 of the largest corporations, they entered into an alliance with these government agencies and these law enforcement centers to supposedly that would make it easier for them to coordinate. Supposedly that would make national security better, but they used this to have the big banks coordinate with law enforcement to spy on and crack down on Occupy Wall Street. And the Domestic Security Alliance Council is one more blatant example of the corporate government collusion. And then there's examples like Amazon, which is tied to the Washington Post through Bezos, and how that's it's closely tied with the government and with the military intelligence complex, and how there's this. So it's no wonder that the Washington Post has put out so much propaganda, and has become not just biased, but pretty much directly tied to the state.
I feel you on that. I actually find it kind of ironically funny when people tell me that they don't watch Fox News, but they read the New York Times and the Washington Post. I'm usually like, I don't know what to say to that. The Jeff Bezos tie with the Washington Post and the CIA, correct?
Yes. Then there's as for how the social media companies are tied to the government. These companies have long been basically tools of the surveillance apparatus, since they've been making deals with these agencies to turn over people's data. And
to the government. So they're giving.
Yeah.
I was under the impression that Facebook, it sounds like in the media that Facebook and these other social media companies are fighting and not wanting to turn the information over. But then when I look at what's happening and the results of everything, it doesn't look like they're not doing it. It looks like they're following what the government's telling them. Now, and
Yeah,
these tech companies on the flip side could be just as scary as our government if anybody that's going to have that much power is somebody to worry about.
yeah, yeah,
So we've got the Washington Post, and they're parodying they're spreading propaganda, and a lot of it is military industrial complex stuff from what I
yeah,
see, pushing war, like Syria, Yemen, every other war we're in.
yeah,
And you get the Democrats sounding like Republicans 20 years ago saying, we can't just pull out. It's not that simple. War is complicated. It's like, wow, weren't you saying no war in the 60s? And weren't the Republicans saying those exact things to you? And they don't realize that they're become right wingers themselves.
yeah. Though there's rationalizations like um, the main talking point has involved the Kurds and how by pulling out of Syria we're supposedly going to we're supposedly be going to imperil the Kurds, yet the Kurds can get help from Syrian and Russian forces, and and then there's I mean there's so much hypocrisy around this. Like another talking point is that Trump is helping ISIS. Yet many of the people saying this have helped ISIS themselves. The U.S. has been helping ISIS for years because it's been a strategic asset
Now,
by
did we?
Al Qaeda and Al
We
Nusra.
didn't. I don't know. You might know this. I don't know. Did we form ISIS or no?
Well, we definitely indirectly did with the Iraq invasion,
Okay.
and there have been I don't know if it's maybe this is one blind spot in my research. I don't know if the United States deliberately created ISIS initially.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's hard to
um,
find. I've looked for that, and I can't find anything. I know we
though,
funded it.
yeah, though apparently ISIS was originally a branch from the original form of ISIS was a branch from Al Qaeda, which the United States did create as part of one of its another one of its strategic operations in the 80s by helping Bin Laden's organization.
To
And
fight Russia.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and of course the United States and its allies have provided arms and training for these terrorist fronts throughout the Syrian war.
Yeah, and that to me is a. I'm a man of science, and to me, the journalist in me sees that, and the research I've done. This is an exact repeat. It looks like we're in Syria, and just like they said, we couldn't get out of Afghanistan and Iraq and all that stuff because of um, Al Qaeda. And now, do you think we're going to create another Al Qaeda type organization? I think the possibility is there. I think it's already maybe happening.
Yeah, there's always going to be proliferation of of terrorist activities, including isolated ones when society is destabilized, when a region is destabilized, and when the room for these radical elements to form is made, because this is a broader problem than the Middle East. White supremacist terrorism, as Chris Hedges has laid out, is is partly the result of these deteriorating social conditions and living standards, and the spread of working class misery, and a lot of people have turned to violence or radical ideologies as catharsis.
Right, right. It happens. So the idea I always say is, why aren't we building schools? Why aren't we building shelters out there and gardens and farms. I think that would help. Is
Yeah.
that do you think that's just not rational right now? Do you think
Oh,
if we invested all our money in going out there and actually trying to build schools, maybe not in the war zones, but as close to the war zones as you can?
ah, well, that would be that I'm sure something like that would help, but we don't want to turn this into a world view that says we can rule the world for good, that there can be some kind of good imperialism. That's
Right.
one problem I've seen with the foreign policy vision of Bernie Sanders, and
Okay.
how he's and how his vision is basically an improved form of American domination. And
Ah.
there's
So even schools is trying. It's like Bob Marley. Don't let them fool you. Don't let them school you. Even if we did go out there and build schools, we'd be indoctrinating and teaching the way the Western world teaches. I'm not a fan of public schools here in America at
yeah,
all.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think they dumb us all down.
that's a good point. That's a good
So
point.
what's a good solution?
A good solution. Well, for the vision of the world that I'm hoping for is for the United U.S. NATO empire to be dismantled, and for an eco-socialist society to be established, and for an
Okay.
international movement, a global movement to take place that that overthrows the capitalist apparatus within all these countries, and that creates reform in worldwide. I mean, there's
Okay.
because because the ruling class in Russia and China and India and the West, they all need to be gotten rid of for there to be just societies in these places. I do not support Vladimir Putin. I would not support him if I were in Russia. I only defend him because he's yet another target of the U.S. empire. There needs to be an international socialist movement that that creates reform, that creates change worldwide.
Okay. So what do you say to the people out there that say capitalist America is a capitalist country? We're a free country. If you take that away, we're going to become slaves to the government, for
Yeah,
example. This is what they
yeah.
say. Well, how do you answer that?
This debate has been going on for 200 years, and I've looked at the history of socialism and capitalism, and I've seen how in capitalist countries, what always happens is that those with the most capital control the government, and society becomes corrupted towards serving those at the top. Society becomes unequal, and it's often resulted in economic decline, and in the creation of fascist societies like in Nazi Germany and
Right.
in our society right now.
Right. It's
And
true.
as for as for the socialist societies, it's true that there have been di- socialist societies in the 20th throughout history that have been turned dictatorial, or that
Yeah.
have had other sorts of human rights violations or other those kinds of problems.
Right.
But does that necessarily mean that a socialist revolution will create a society like that? That
I don't think so. No.
it does not, because the creation of the Stalinist countries was the result of Stalinism triumphing over the real vision of socialism and the defeat of Trotskyism. And
Okay. So I have another question for you. What's the difference between socialism and then communism?
well, it seems that since I've looked up the definition, socialism means common ownership over the means of production, distribution, and exchange, and communism means basically the abolition of private property. It means the abolition of the power of that human beings can have uh, to take advantage over another by arbitrarily seizing wealth and power and property. And when I think about it objectively, communism should be the ultimate objective, isn't it? This radical change in society where exploitation isn't really possible.
I'm not
And
sure. I don't know.
Lenin said that communism is what comes from socialism. That communism is the ultimate stage of socialism, and so I don't want to make socialism and communism make it seem like the same thing. And when I make these statements about these systems, but by advocating for socialism, I'm ultimately looking to bring society towards communism or something resembling it,
Right.
where
So then we have capitalism, and then the ultimate stage of capitalism, and is unrestrained capitalism usually leads to fascism or totalitarianism, which I can't even barely say.
yeah,
And then you got dictator. So and then if you're saying socialism leads to communism, that makes me think that that's not good. Now, when you say the socialism thing, the business, I'm recently learning from you and everybody else, Chris Hedges, and I'm reading, and Caitlin. I mean, I'm trying my best to figure this stuff out. And it seems like the ownership of business, where it's split up between everybody that's in the business, seems so the right direction. Like, I think if you're running a business in your house by yourself, it's your business. And if you want to make money and profit that, the second you start hiring people, it
yeah,
should be their business too. You shouldn't be hiring people and then be like in charge of them. I know this sounds weird to people, but if you're all making the decision together and the business is going to be better, and it's better for the environment and for the country if everybody's deciding together. Right now, when we have this unrestrained capitalism and corporate cronies like what's his name, Bezos and stuff, like Burger King, McDonald's, Walmart, none of these companies are people, but they got rights like people, and they
yeah,
don't care about the United States in any way or form. Their bottom dollar is the bottom line is much more important than our country, because they're not human beings. So if we were all running if everybody that worked for Walmart was running Walmart, I'm pretty sure
yeah,
everyone would be paid more. Our country would be better off, in my opinion.
yes. This is what
So
I've
then I get scared. The last thing I want to say is I get worried, and this is where I need to learn more, is when you take away the right of ownership of everything. So then, like, I can't own my own house or my own. Now, I think we're going down the road where no one's going to have cars. Like, I don't think people should have cars. That's just where we're heading. And I know people get freaked out about that too, but that is where we're heading. So face the facts. Soon, everybody's not going to have a car. It'd probably be legal, or you have to have a certain license to drive a vehicle. Most things will be electronic cars will come to your door and pick you up. It'll be pretty nice, So it's technology. But then if I can't own my own house, corrupt government is where I worry. If we say
yeah.
that you can't have a private schools, then are you thinking that we should have all public education?
Hmm. Well, the a good solution to that is to acknowledge that uh, these uh, these established socialist societies in the past they've had legitimate flaws in them. And I saw this recent interview I saw this interview with the Marxist professor Richard Wolff, and he said that the problem
Just learn.
with many socialist societies is that they've turned everything over to a centralized committee government committee that controls how society operates, and a good solution to that would be to democratize companies and create cooperatives that basically
Okay, now
turn
that's cool.
everything into a big co-op
Yeah, right
and
on.
and to
Yeah,
and to change the system in that way. It doesn't have to
I
be
like that.
yeah, it doesn't have to be because we can change our minds. We can change our how we can change our ideologies, or we
Good.
can change the definitions of these systems. It doesn't
Right,
have to be
right.
rooted in an orthodoxy.
Okay, right. I feel that because I do worry about like I would never like even when they say right now I'm fighting for one of the top things I fight for, you might know, is Medicare for all. I think that today in this society in America that nobody here should go without Medicare for all. Everyone should get insurance, some kind of health coverage. But I'm also not ready to say that I think everybody should be forced to be on Medicare for all because it's the same thing as saying, oh, everybody should go to a public school system. Well, look at Oklahoma and all the states where the school teachers are out there protesting. The public school system are shit. Now, I think that we should have more money invested in public school systems. I think we should build more public schools. I think they're a necessity for the inner cities to get a chance to move out and get up in this world. But if it's all run by the government, we're going to have a really dumb nation. And then you got no challenging the ideas or the ways to teach. You know, I'm really into the school systems. I got 2 young kids. Teaching to the test is a complete capitalistic mess. And they're treating everybody the same. And they're saying everybody should learn the same things at the same times. And we're human beings. We're all individual. So in my idea, the public school system suck. You know, the Medicare isn't great. I think everybody should have a chance to get it. But I think we have to design a way to have challenging private organizations. At least that's where I've still come to. Like, that's what I've been taught. I'm ready to change my mind, but I have to see the evidence prove that there's another way. So what do you think about it?
Yeah, well, that is an issue that I definitely are you basically saying that if we have universal health care, we need to make it so that it's not mandatory to receive the care that the government says that we have to get?
Yeah, I think not like Obama, where I don't think everybody. I think we're going to have taxes. Face the facts. You're going to pay your taxes. Everyone's going to have to pay taxes for Medicare for all. But I think if you have a lot of money, I think you should be able to go to a different doctor or get different insurance. My son's type 1 diabetic. Okay, he's got type 1 diabetes. There's a huge problem with type 1 diabetes in America because the people that are running are teaching our doctors still in the year 2019 that when you get type 1 diabetes, you don't have to change your diet. You just have to take the medicine, the insulin, which is going up in price. More kids are getting type 1 diabetes. There's so many lies behind type 1 diabetes because of the profit involved in it that more people are getting diabetes because they're told when you go right to the doctors and your son has diabetes, they say, don't worry, he didn't get it from the food he ate. He just got it because he's got a gene in him. And then those people go home and then their siblings come down with it too. And it's because they don't change anything in their diet. They don't change their lifestyle. But something's happening in America to make the rise of type 1 and 2 diabetes go up. But there's a huge lies and conspiracies hiding it all because they want to sell insulin and make billions of dollars. So I go to the doctors here and they tell me bullshit. They tell me food doesn't matter. They don't even know about glycemic index. They don't know that there's a difference between a banana and wheat and table sugar. They don't know any of that. A lot of doctors don't even have to go to any food nutrition classes. They're drug dealers. So personally, if I had more money, I'd be going to a really good private, like naturalist, food nutritionist. But if you're saying if they're going to turn the whole nation into government-run Medicare, then that's not going to be an option.
Oh, I see what you mean now. Like sort of activist doctors or doctors who
Homeopathic,
homeopath or who yeah,
Western and Eastern medicine, India, a lot of different things. Some of it's bullshit, some of it's pseudoscience, but
yeah,
that doesn't matter because that's the freedom of America for us to bring up pseudosciences and test them and see if they really are, because the mainstream medical fields call everything pseudoscience. Like they just disregard, like, okay, vaccines, for instance. Look, I'm not anti-vaccinations, but I also am not blindly pro-vaccination because there's so much money involved in it that there are problems with it. And I'm not saying don't vaccinate, but I'm saying do your research. And I'm saying that side, there's other things, type 1 diabetes, there's cancers. Look at the CBD movement. Look at the marijuana movement. That would have never been, possible if we didn't have hundreds of doctors getting on board in private clinics with the CBD first. If everything was Medicare for all, I think marijuana would still be illegal.
yeah. Well, I totally agree. Since I don't want to make I definitely don't want to make mandatory vaccination part of Medicare for all. And
Right.
and so I'm glad we're discussing right now the details of these policies that we want to implement.
Right.
And
Right.
what the
Because they're
future would
important.
look like if our worldview wins out.
Right. I really think Medicare for all is essential. It's one of my biggest things. I'm all for it, but I also realize that we have to make sure that people understand. And I think the other thing is it's going to be so much better because most people I talk to think right now that Medicare for all means everybody has to be on Medicare for all.
Yeah,
And I've seen nothing that says that. I don't think that that's what's going on. There's an option to opt out, and the majority of Americans favor the opt-out option. And I think that's a safety net for science. And I think it's very scary for us to be saying, like you said, what happens if all of a sudden it was all Medicare for all? And they said, yeah, you have to take vaccinations. That's scary, and not because I think vaccinations are bad, but forcing somebody to do anything is bad. So we need to address that. And I need to learn more from you because I think that we need to get away from this capitalist system. We need to change it completely. I just don't know what we're changing it into.
yeah. Well, let's see. I let's see. I've right now I'm talking about how I'm writing these articles about how basically we need to move beyond capitalism if we want to solve climate change.
Oh,
and
yes.
and and how capitalist solutions to climate change aren't really feasible because the incentive to create profits will still create more CO2 emissions from corporations, even if these companies are using green technologies.
Yep.
And I've come to this conclusion after a few years of studying these issues, because initially I assumed that capitalism is essentially a good system,
Yeah,
and,
so did I.
and that it just needs to be reformed. And I'm still seeing a lot of people some people who really insist that capitalism is essentially good and
Yeah,
are
Robert Reich, Saving Capitalism. I watched that. It's too late. We don't want to do that. And I have a prime example. In the 1990s, I pushed into the organic movement. I started learning about organic. In 1990s, the California Act, the Organic California Act, was in the 90s. So when I was eating food out here in California, when I came out to the West Coast and stuff, I'd always look for the label to say the Certified California Act of Organic. I can't remember what it said. but that was a good label. And then the USDA came out in the early 2000s, I think, with the new organic label. And the word organic has been totally abused, misused. I actually most times avoid it because there's nothing about it that says it's safe. There's nothing about it that says it's environmentally safe or safe for human consumption. And because of capitalism and making money, they just used the label, changed everything. They still spray tons of pesticides on it. It's just organic, but it's still harmful to the environment. It's harmful to our bodies. And that is, there's no fixing the capitalist system if we don't change the way it's done. And monetary money, I look progressive in the future. I think that if you look at other planets and there are other creatures out there, I think that we're still barbaric if we're using money.
Yeah. And I'm thinking about how exactly this transition will work, because obviously there's giant interest towards keeping the system in place, and there's a threat of violence from the police, and I wrote an article last month titled "The Police State is the Ruling Class's Preemptive Defense Against a Revolution," and it warned about how the militarization of police in particular is a danger that we need to be aware of, and that a lot of white Americans are sometimes comically not naive about, maybe because it doesn't affect them as much.
True.
And
That's yeah.
Trump has helped militarize police. In 2017, he lifted restrictions on letting local police departments get more army equipment, and we need to look out for this threat, because the response from the state to a mass rebellion will definitely include violence. And I think that the way around it is persistence, and not letting these movements be broken up, because Occupy Wall
Right.
Street was broken up essentially by police intimidation tactics and mass arrests. And I wonder what if that would happen again now. I'm thinking, is a society more ready for a successful uprising than it was in 2011? I think it is. I think it is, and I think that our organizations are also stronger.
I do
So
have a point here, though. I do agree with that aspect. But I think one thing that we have working against us compared to before is the same thing that they do around the whole world. Anytime there's a chance of, even if that in the other countries, they have violent revolutions. And anytime there's a starting of a violent revolution, there is civil war, because the
yeah,
best way to stop them have been fight. Now here in America, we're not going to have a violent revolution, not for a long time. So what we need is this peaceful political revolution. But what they're doing here is doing a civil war, a peaceful political civil war. So we're going through the same thing these other places are going through. It's just not the exact same. It's on a bigger scale and it's not violent, but people are still getting hurt, killed. I mean, it is actually violent. It's just not as violent.
yes. I think what you're saying is that the state wants there to be violence from the protesters, because
Right?
then it can respond. And the John Lennon quote, when uh, when you engage in violence, you're playing the establishment's game. The establishment wants to flick at your beard and get you mad. Then you get violent. Then they know
Yep.
how to deal with you. They can lock you up or shoot you.
Yep.
And that's the
Yep.
problem with a lot of the strains of Antifa and Black Bloc,
Exactly.
since
Yeah.
they
All of that. And then, yep.
since they want to engage in violence without provocation, without need, and
Yep.
and so I don't think it's healthy engage in these grandiose statements, as I've seen some engage in, about how people need to realize that that peaceful revolution is now impossible. The only solution is a mass storming and in mass destruction. Um, but it's more complicated than that. I think we need to build these institutions for revolt. We need to build organizations like the Socialist Equality Party, or the and and organizations like the Democratic Socialists of America, which isn't as radical as I want, but
No, no. To me, and the thing is, this has been a long 3 years. When I first 3 years ago, I thought that they were really radical, and I didn't even get to. Now I agree with you. They're like the bottom of it. We need to go further, more progressive than that. So I'm on the whole same page with you. I think I like the fact that you agree that we're trying to figure it out. We don't know the answers. We just know that we need answers, and we need huge change. And we need to, by doing that, we need to form organizations, groups. I put it together, the Collective Social Network, all about it. We need to stand behind the politicians who are trying and back them up. We got to bash the ones who aren't. We have to dem-exit, dem-enter, both at the same time. And we have to start teaching people about socialism. And that's the biggest thing to save our planet. And I think that's why I have you on today.
oh yeah, because I'm trying to I've lately been trying to move in that direction of talking to people about the need for a radical change in our society, and and I feel like the 2020 election is going to be depressing, because all the mechanisms are in place as they were in 2016 for the sabotage of a progressive candidate in the Democratic primary, and for all these media attacks to marginalize third parties and progressive candidates, and it's overall going to be a circus. There's going to be a lot of distractions from Trump and other places,
Yeah.
and I don't want to be distracted as much this time. I want to continue. Uh, I want to continue doing what we're doing right now, engaging in these conversations and building the organizations that we need to overthrow the corporate state.
Yeah, I'm with you, brother. Everybody, this is Rainier Shea. I really appreciate you coming on and talking. You guys can check him out on Medium. I'm gonna put a link below in the comment section, or you can go right to the original post. See his articles, read his articles, give him some comments, like his stuff, and we're gonna go from there. And everybody have a good day. Thank you very much, Rainier, for coming on.
Yeah, thanks. It was not nice of you to sort of promote me and to let me and have a conversation with me on this video chat.
Yeah, I really appreciate you coming on. And the other thing is, I would like to do it again in a couple months, and we can talk about where we've gone from now till then. Make it a regular thing every couple months. We'll touch base.
Yes, sounds good.
All right, keep writing those articles, brother.
Yeah.
Everybody have a great day. This is the Collective Social Network. That was Rainier Shea, who writes for Medium and a couple other sites. You can look him up. Just Google his name, Medium, or you can go to TCSN Newsreel on Facebook. He posts articles there a lot. You can like him on Facebook, follow him there. Thank you for everybody for watching our show today. Peace.